Today's video is going to be on country music legend Merle Haggard. I don't have a grave site to visit to show you, as it said in most places that I read that he was cremated. However, I did read a couple of places that said he is buried on his ranch in Palo Cedro, California. Not only am I a big fan of Merle Haggard's music, and I just got finished reading Merle's autobiography, My House of Memories, and that gave me the idea to do this video. So let's start from the beginning of Merle Haggard's life. A lot of people may think that Merle Haggard was born and raised in Oklahoma, as he co-wrote and sang a very famous song called Okie from Muskogee. Some will even say he was born and raised in Bakersville, California, and that's partially true. Merle, in his book, verifies that he was actually born in Bakersville, and he said he was born April the 6th, 1937, at Kern General Hospital in Bakersville, California. And even though Merle was actually born in Bakersville, California, the home that he lived in at the time of his birth with his parents, which was James and Flossie Haggard, was in the small town of Oilsdale, California. Oilsdale is just approximately 3.5 miles out of Bakersfield. As I said, Oilsdale was a small town, not sure of the population in 1937, but in 2023 the population was 34,971. And since I've been talking about them moving to Oilsdale and that was where their home was, I will say that the house they had wasn't a normal type house. It is said that James paid $500 at the time to buy an old freight car, and some call it a box car, and he converted it into a house, and he added onto it to make more room for the family. And thank goodness, I think it was in 2015, like a year before Merle would pass away, that they restored that house and moved it to the Kearns County Museum there in Bakersfield, California. Since I'm talking about the early years of Merle's life, let me go back just a little bit farther than that. Merle's parents, James and Flossie Haggard, had moved from Oklahoma, and that may be why he's associated sometimes with people saying he's from Oklahoma. They moved from a small town, which was about 23 miles out of Muskogee, Oklahoma. Remember that name? He used that in a song. And they moved in 1935 to California. And it wasn't because of the Depression or even the Dust Bowl going on. It was because the family barn had been hit by lightning and burned to the ground, and they lost everything. So that's the reason they ended up moving to California. And I will also mention that Merle said in his book that his dad talked often about wanting to go back to Oklahoma. Just a couple more things about Merle's family before moving on with my story. His dad worked as a railroad worker. His mom was a bookkeeper. He had 2 sisters and 1 brother. Merle's sister Flora was either stillborn or died at birth in 1924. His brother was named James Lowell, and he called him Lowell. And Lowell was born in 1922. His oldest sibling, which was his sister Lillian, she was born in 1921, and she died at the age of 103 in 2024. As you can tell, there were quite a bit of age difference between Merle and his brother and sister, 15 and 16 years of age to be exact. But now, the part that was probably the saddest part of the story is that Merle's dad would die at the age of 47 from a brain hemorrhage, they said. Merle was just 9 years old when this happened. His mom would live to be 81. Merle's mom and dad are buried at a cemetery in Bakersfield, California. Merle was very open in his autobiography about things he did, and a lot of them were things that he knows he shouldn't have done. For instance, he talked a lot about hopping trains and riding them even when he was just at a very young age. He said he first started doing that when just a couple of years after his dad died. And remember, I just said that his dad died when he was 9. He also talked about being married 5 times and that he had spent time and many times in juvenile facilities. He'd spent some time in jail, and he'd even spent one time in San Quentin prison. And I won't go into all those details. If you're interested in that, you can read the book. But there is a couple of stories in that book that are really worth mentioning that does not deal with that at all. And I'd like to tell you a couple of those. And with times being rough when the 1930s and even 40s when Merle was growing up, he said he got a lot of toys that were handmade by his dad. But he also mentioned that one year it was his seventh Christmas, and he said that he really wanted a train that he'd been seeing in the Sears Roebuck catalog that cost $9.95. And he got up like at 3:30 in the morning hoping to catch Santa to beg for it, even though he knew that was kind of hard to ask for back in the hard times. But when he got up, the tree already had a train going around it. He thought, well, Dad and Santa must have worked to put the train and the track together for him. He said that was the year he found out there was who Santa Claus really was. Well, I guess the second story I want to tell from the book is really kind of one that is something that he really shouldn't have done. He had hopped a train with a friend, and they'd loaded stuff in a pillowcase and everything, I think, that they think they were going on a big trip and all. And, of course, it wasn't long he got stopped. Of course, they would realize a young child with a pillowcase full of things was probably not just your normal person riding a train. And the first thing they did, of course, was call his mom. And, of course, she came to bail him out with wherever they were at the time. And she said to him, Merle, why in the world are you hopping a train when you could have had a pass? You could ride a train pass for free as your dad worked on the railroad. And I don't think Merle thought about that at all, or he probably would have, but he came back with a fast answer to her that anybody could ride with a pass, but only those that were true men that could hop a train. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that Merle Haggard sang country music, but you may not know that a lot of people refer to his music as outlaw country music or even the Bakersville sound, not just country music. But I guess the most impressive thing about his music is a lot of people don't realize that Merle Haggard sang and recorded a lot of gospel music as well. And it's said that his mother was hoping that he'd end up being a gospel music singer. Besides being a great singer, he also was an awesome songwriter, and he wrote many, if not most, of his own songs that he recorded. But another thing is that you probably saw a lot of albums or pictures of him or videos of him over the years with his guitar, but Merle could also play the violin. And he tells in his book that he'd been just as happy or more happy even just playing his guitar, as he loved playing that better than he even did singing. I have to mention a few of Merle's most famous songs and a few of his awards and honors he received, because it wouldn't do the man justice if I didn't. And some of these just may bring back some memories for you. That's like Mama Tried, I'm a Lonesome Fugitive. I love that song. And I think Lynn Anderson's mom wrote that song for him. The Legend of Bonnie and Clyde song, and a movie was made about Bonnie and Clyde, of course. Working Man Blues, and of course, I've already mentioned Okie from Muskogee. That was one of my favorites, and I even had that album. And The Fighting Side of Me. The awards and honors that Merle received throughout the years has been just like his songs, too numerous to name them all, but I have to mention a couple that really stand out to me. Merle's been inducted, of course, into the Country Music Hall of Fame. He has a star on Hollywood Walk of Fame, as well as a star on Bakersville Walk of Fame. And he's also been inducted into the Oklahoma Music Museum, which is located in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And speaking of that, Muskogee, Oklahoma, in October of 2024, and I'm sorry to say it was just 4 months after I had visited that area that his a bronze statue was dedicated there to Merle Haggard. Well, I got to close this video before it gets way too long, because I could go on and on about Merle Haggard. But I guess I should just end it with saying that Merle's music is going to be carried on. Merle has 6 children, and they were 3 daughters and 3 sons. And his sons, Marty, Noel, and Ben, are carrying on with his music. If you haven't heard any of their songs, you need to. They really sound a lot like Merle. All three of them do it at times in their songs. And I think Marty and Noel even look a lot like him. So that's what I want to finish up my video with saying about Merle Haggard. And I'd like to also say, I thank you so very much for watching this video today.